back at the Apex as we head into the most important event of the year, as the UFC sees how many suckers are going to tune into this event, how many new fans that got converted into hardcore MMA fans after UFC 300 will waste their time on a card like this. They're seeing what they can get away with, and I am one of the guys that's going to be tuning into this card. I am going to make my predictions, and I couldn't be happier that we are going to see carbon copy number 1 versus carbon copy number 2, the Apex flyweights that look the same, that act the same, that strike the same, that just have a different prototype in what's that motherfucker's name? Matheus Nicolau versus Alex Perez. Whoa, I can't wait for this fight. It's such a hardcore fan's dream. Leave it to the hardcores to tell us about how great this fight is, including myself, who is going to be suckered into watching this card. And it is what it is. Because let's be honest, we know what we're going to get. We got the Anthony Smith guy, we got a couple of fat heavyweights, and we got a couple of shitty flyweight fights. And you know what? The hardcore fans are going to be out in droves. And the UFC, as I said, is going to figure out what they can get away with. Because the last weekend, they probably gained a lot of fans. And this weekend, they're heading in strong. They're saying, how many of these fuckers are we going to get this time? It's a big fuck you to the fans. It's a big slap in the face. But yeah, every business needs to have a big fuck you every once in a while. So I'm looking forward to it. Alex Perez, Matheus Nicolau. I can't wait to see the comment section saying, absolute certified banger, bro. Yeah, I can't wait for this one. Firecracker, absolutely. Let's be honest. I'd rather watch Bogdan Guskov spar with Anthony Smith 50 times over than watch Alex Perez versus Matheus Nicolau. I'm being honest. It's a trash one, but it is what it is. We're going to watch it. We're going to deal with it. We're going to suck it up, and we're going to fucking go through it. All right? And I guess we can have fun if we get all our picks right, or if we get all our picks wrong, we get to complain. And that is kind of the appeal of these Apex cards for the content creators, is we get to rage or we get to celebrate. And don't get me wrong, I hate this event. I can't stand it. It's absolutely atrocious. But if I get all my picks right, I'm celebrating like there's no tomorrow. So let's get into this. Let's predict these fights. Up first, we have none other. Maheshate Heiser versus Gabriel Benitez. I'm picking Maheshate to finish Gabriel Benitez in the first or second round. He's 24 years old. He's coming off of a 2-fight loss streak. And I think the hunger, the mindset of I might get cut if I lose 3 in a row, it's now or never, is going to propel this man to a victory. And I think he's just going to pull it out the fire, grit it out, and make sure to finish this old head can crusher. And I say he's a can crusher. I just mean that he's only beaten cans. And Maheshate, you can make the same argument about. You could say, well, he's lost to guys that aren't that great. But he's only had 3 fights in the UFC. He looked decent against Vyacheslav Borsev, even though he got knocked out. He was okay in that fight. He was in there with him. And in his first fight in the UFC, he had a nasty knockout against Steve Garcia, who, in my opinion, is one of the more dangerous featherweights on the roster. And I just really like the fact that this guy's 24. He's coming off of an embarrassing loss. He's taken a lot of time off. Using the eye test, I'm more impressed by his striking. Okay, I think he can be a little bit more wild than Gabriel Benitez. His boxing may not be as powerful or as crisp, but overall, I think he has more weapons. He has better kicks. He has nice knees. And I just see him going berserk in this fight, making sure to get a finish so that he can keep this contract. And I think he'll be the hungrier guy at 24 years old, knowing that if he loses this, he's out, okay? Whereas Gabriel Benitez, I mean, the guy's basically just here to lose. That's basically his job. He weeds out the shittiest fighters, like Charlie Ontiveros. Okay, congrats. You beat Charlie Ontiveros. That guy's horrible. Maheshate, I believe, is better than Charlie Ontiveros and Justin James, okay? And also, I just think that by virtue of this guy being in the UFC for longer, even when he gets destroyed against guys like David Onama, okay, and Billy Quarantillo, people just see that he was in the cage with these guys who aren't even like that great, but they just see that he was in the cage with them, and therefore, oh, well, there's a big step up. It's not a big step up. Maheshate is taking a step down from Vyacheslav Borsev, who is a much better boxer than Gabriel Benitez, and he's going to knock his ass out. All right, so I'm going to go with first or second round KO for Maheshate. Let's get on to the next one. James Liontop versus Chris Padilla. I'm picking James Liontop. All right, from what I've seen from this guy, 14-2 record versus 13-6 Chris Padilla, who's lost a lot in the past few years. I mean, there's a ton of L's on this guy's record. He's older. He's less proven. It's a damn near 500 record. Whereas James Liontop, 14-2, actually looks real solid, actually has really good boxing. He has fast hands. He's tough. All right. He's more proven. He has much less L's. And I'm just really going to bank on the guy that is, once again, the safer bet here. So I'm going to go with James Liontop to outbox Chris Padilla and get himself a finish in his UFC debut. Both of these guys are making their debut, but James Liontop had a nice victory on the Contender Series. I'm picking James Liontop to get this one done, putting on for Peru. Let's get on to the next one. Don'Tale Mayes versus Cal Machado. Wow. What an amazing fight we've got here. Just two great heavyweights going at it. Don'Tale Mayes, one of the craftiest fighters in the UFC, versus Cal Machado, who is just one heck of an athlete too. Now, this man, Cal Machado, will be fighting out of the Apex. He will be popping out of the conveyor belt. He will have the battery pack popped in him, and he will be fighting for his freedom because Don'Tale Mayes, although he's nothing special, one thing is for sure, he was training with Jon Jones. And if you're training with Jon Jones and you're the one to injure him, that is some kind of a character bonus, right? There's some character there. There's something there. So I am going to pick Don'Tale Mayes to get this one done. All jokes aside, well, I'm not even fucking joking. I am picking Don'Tale Mayes. He's slow, he's shitty, he's sloppy, but he's just a little awkward, man. He's so slow, it's like it lulls you to sleep. He basically throws punches and kicks like he's throwing changeups. And I think that Cal Machado, who is, just a typical fat heavyweight that's really got no sting on his punches, that really doesn't have an ability to go after and actually get a finish. Now, of course, as I said, he'll be fighting for his freedom, but I just think that he's going to leave a lot on the table. He's going to get tired in the second round, and Don'Tale Mayes, with all the UFC experience and the 10-6 record and the shitty striking, change-up speed, is just going to be a little bit too awkward for him. And I'm picking Don'Tale Mayes to get this one by decision. Okay? So, yeah, I'm picking Don'Tale Mayes. Let's get on to the next one. Austen Hubbard versus Michal Figlak. So let me guess. We've got Michal Figlak, 8-1 from Poland, who lost to Faraz Ziam, which is not the best look because he kind of got his ass whooped in that fight. But he's fighting a UFC reject, tough winner that lost to Kurt Holoba. Actually, is he really a tough winner when he lost to another guy on Tough recently that also happened to lose to Trey Ogden? Kurt Holoba, the guy that beat your ass, lost recently to a can. So, am I going to go with the tough failure, or am I going to go with Michal Figlak? I'm picking Michal Figlak. You just can't trust these old heads. Austen Hubbard, I know people watch the whole season and they see the cutscenes and they see the interviews and they feel more connected to these guys and they look decent against other UFC rejects, but at the end of the day, the worst tough season in human history. I just can't pick you to win this fight against a young 8-1 guy, Michal Figlak, who got embarrassed in his first fight by Twig Faraz Ziam, and he's going to have an old, jittery Austen Hubbard who just doesn't have the best fight IQ. These guys are basically bringing the early 2010s style of fighting to the new guys. And even though Michal Figlak is not very good, and he probably will never get to the rankings, he's at least a modern-day fighter that grew up in a modern gym with modern training techniques. And Austen Hubbard's a guy that's really just bringing it back from Spike TV. Okay? Austen Hubbard was fighting on MTV back in the day before he got cut from the UFC. This guy was fighting on a Chuck Liddell card. I'm not picking Austen Hubbard. All right? I'm picking Michal Figlak. Rani Yahya versus Victor Henry. I'm going to go with Victor Henry. All right? I like Victor Henry's striking. He's pretty tough. Rani Yahya, T-Rex arms, unathletic. He's not dangerous at all. He's got a suspect chin. He's basically another version of, what's his name? What's that guy that was diving at Ilia Toporia's legs? The pipsqueak, the nerd, Ryan Hall. That's what I was going to say. He's an even less athletic version of Ryan Hall. Striking is just as shitty, if not more. He looks scared on the feet. And I think that Victor Henry, every single second this thing takes place on the feet, is going to beat his fucking ass. Okay? Rani Yahya may go for something. He may get the takedown in the early going of this fight, may pull off a submission. But if Victor Henry can stuff the early takedowns, which again, I think he's capable of. He's been doing MMA for a while. He's 37. These are two old heads going at it, but Rani Yahya is on the wrong side of the 30s. He's actually 40 now. Whereas Victor Henry is still 37. He's still doing his thing. I got Victor Henry. I think he's a really solid striker. Remember that great win that he had over Raoni Barcelos? Victor Henry has one thing to worry about. He's an old, crafty veteran. I think he's going to be able to pull this one off. Rani Yahya is going to go in there scared as a mouse. And I think Victor Henry's going to tune him up, beat him up. And I'm going to pick Victor Henry by a first or second round KO. Let's get on to the next one. Dirty Bird Tim Means versus Uros Medic. Now, this is actually a banger. I can't wait for this fight. Tim Means is a beast. Old head, 40 years old. Has amazing wins throughout his UFC career. He's even beat the likes of Mike Perry. He just beat up Andre Fialho, knocked him down multiple times, just put an absolute whooping on him. And Tim Means is tough. He's got a granite chin. He's got good kicks. He's got good knees. He's got great boxing. He's got warrior spirit, a good ability to survive in bad spots. But Uros Medic, coming off of a bad loss to Uralbai, completely different matchup. We can't say, all right, well, this guy got drowned in the grappling by Uralbai, the Iceman, and all of a sudden Tim Means just whoops his ass. It's a totally different stylistic matchup, okay? The last guy that beat Uros Medic on the feet was Jalen Turner at 155 pounds. Since then, he's moved up. The skill gap is in place. I'm picking Uros Medic because when in doubt, the skill gap is going to play out. And I think that Uros Medic is bringing the lightweight skill into this fight now. Although I'm a little bit worried because something about Uros Medic, some about him folding to Jalen Turner with the body shots and just seeing him crumpling up is not necessarily a good look going into a really gritty fight with a guy like Tim Means that just has an amazing ability to survive. But I think that Uros Medic proved that he had pretty decent cardio against Matthew Semmelsberger, which was at Utah, which was Salt Lake City. That's elevation. Matthew Semmelsberger, very dangerous. Uros Medic broke him in the third round and was able to look pretty good in the later rounds with his cardio. So I actually think he's going to have a good ability to go a hard 3 rounds here. And I think he's faster than Tim Means. Tim Means is crafty, and I think he's going to have those sneaky change-up speed punches, sneaky change-up speed teeps and kicks and knees. And he's going to be catching Uros Medic every now and then with something Uros Medic just didn't expect because he's disrespecting the old man. But I think that Uros Medic is going to have that nasty speed. If you watch that fight with Uralbai back, he was tuning him up early. He was making Uralbai second-guess himself. He was making Uralbai make stupid faces with the knees that he was catching him with. He was making him look silly early on. So I think Uros Medic is going to beat this motherfucker's ass. I think Uros Medic with that lightweight speed is going to go in there. He's going to be landing good knees on Tim Means. Anything Means can do, he can do better. He may not be tougher. If Tim Means really goes for it and makes this an absolute dogfight, I think he might pull off the TKO, but I just see the speed being a whole different thing here. Okay? Lightweight, lost to Jalen Turner, moving up. I think he should be able to beat Tim Means. All right, just a bit of a skill gap in this one. So I'm going to go with Uros Medic by a decision. I'm going to pick Uros Medic by decision in this fight. I think he's going to have the speed. I think he's going to have the cardio to go a hard 3 rounds. And I just think he's going to be beating Tim Means to the punch. All right? And I think he's going to be the stronger man. Even though Tim Means is a guy that's been fighting at welterweight for a while, Uros Medic is a big dude nonetheless. Even though he is a former lightweight, he still is, I think like 6'2". He's got a pretty big frame, decent amount of muscle on him. All right, and this is not Uralbai. So I actually think he might have the upper hand in the grappling in this one. So don't be surprised if he takes this one to the ground. He has decent ground and pound too. Let's get on to the next one. Jonathan Pearce versus David Onama. Another really good fight if David Onama wins, because he's the one that's pretty entertaining. But I'm going with Jonathan Pearce. I'm going to pick Jonathan Pearce. Yes, he's coming off of a bad stoppage loss. He got submitted by Joe Anderson Brito, but he was dominating Brito the whole fight up until that point. Joe Anderson Brito is just a beast. He's explosive, and he just got himself a Hail Mary submission in the second round of that fight. But Jonathan Pearce was taking him down, rinse and repeat, kind of dominating him, getting the control time. Pearce is a pretty boring grappler, but he is a guy that's good at imposing his will, and he has a great ability to control guys. And I just don't think he's going to give David Onama what he wants, which is striking it out on the feet. David Onama is looking to knock you out. David Onama is looking to go out there fast out the gates and to kind of blitzkrieg you. And I just think that Jonathan Pearce is going to meet him head on with a takedown. He's going to put him on the mat, and he's going to stink it up to a decision. Because Jonathan Pearce, outside of that loss to Joe Anderson Brito, has basically been damn near perfect in the UFC. He's got wins over Christian Rodriguez. I mean, think about that. A win over Christian Rodriguez as a grappler, that was in 2021. since then, that has aged really well. Since we know how good Christian Rodriguez's cardio is and his ability to get back into a fight. All right, he's got to win over Darren Elkins, who's always a tough out. And he's just really good with his control. So I think the safer bet is Jonathan Pearce. David Onama's dangerous, but I think after the first round, he's just going to be a bit of a pushover on the ground. So let's get on to the next one. Austen Lane, all right, versus Jhonata Diniz. Jhonata Diniz. I'm picking Jhonata Diniz. Former Glory kickboxer. Nasty KO power. He's actually sleeping fools. This is not a typical fat heavyweight. This is a real-life heavyweight with a kickboxing background that has gone to a decision with Rico Van Hooven. And as I said, has just been laying dudes the fuck out. And Austen Lane, on the other hand, although he looks scary, although he's got a crazy frame, he's got, really long reach and long legs and everything like that, and he's got great kicks, he's chinny. All right, he just got knocked the heck out by, what's that guy's name? Justin Tafa. Laid him out cold. And before that, I think we saw Austen Lane get beat up on the Contender Series a couple of times, right? We saw this guy get destroyed by Greg Hardy, freaking pieced up by a couple of other cans throughout his career. Austen Lane should be a fucking world champ, but he just doesn't have the chin, and he doesn't have the pop, right? I think he's going to come out here, he's going to surprise us with his athleticism, and he's going to look fast, and it's just a matter of time before Jhonata Diniz gets him with a big shot, rocks him badly, follows up with something crisp just because his kickboxing is a lot higher of a level. And I think we're just going to see that the more tough, technically sound, experienced kickboxer get a nasty finish in this one. So I'm picking Diniz by first round KO. Let's get on to the next one. Karine Silva versus Ariane Lipski. I'm picking Karine Silva. I think she's going to get this one done. Now, listen, Ariane Lipski she's a really good tough cookie, but Karine Silva's just got the grappling. She's just got the grappling and she's got the striking, and Lipski has decent kicks, but I think Karine Silva's got the punches, and I think the punches are going to be good in this fight, and I think that the grappling and the punches are going to be mixed together, and I think she might even be able to pull this one off by a victory. So I'm going to be picking Karine Silva. Let's get on to the next one. Ryan Spann versus Bogdan Guskov. Anthony Smith's doppelganger. This is so tempting for me to just go with Bogdan Guskov because I think that Ryan Spann's overrated as fuck. I do think he's really overrated. But the reason why I am going to stay with the safe pick in Ryan Spann, and I've watched their fights back, we know that Bogdan's dangerous. We know that he keeps his hands low in an attempt to sneak in a nice crafty right hand or an uppercut that his opponents don't see coming. And I think that Ryan Spann, who has a horrible fight IQ, might get caught with some shit like that. And also just, he doesn't have the best chin in the world. I could see him getting finished by Bogdan, who's a little bit wild. But the reason why I'm going with Ryan Spann is because he's at least able to have competitive moments against the upper echelon of his division. Like Anthony Smith, he goes to a decision with Anthony Smith. Horrible fight IQ, was not kicking the legs of Smith, and I expected him to easily win that fight because at least I thought he would kick the legs of a guy whose biggest weakness is leg kicks. But he was too stupid to do that. So he lost that fight. But either way, he was still beating up Anthony Smith in the second round, and he had a very close third round with him. And you could say all you want about Bogdan being dangerous. He just got a win over Zach Pauga, who is a pillow-handed can that shouldn't even be fighting at heavyweight. All right? Big difference between Anthony Smith, who Ryan Spann had a very close fight with, and whatever the fuck Bogdan's last opponent, Zach Pauga. All right? And then who else is Ryan Spann fighting? He's fighting Johnny Walker, who he rocked badly, and Walker only finished Spann because he was hitting him with back of the head shots. He got beat by Nikita Krylov, levels above Bogdan Guskov, right? He finished Dominic Reyes, not necessarily that impressive, but it's not like he just finished him with one punch. It was a couple minutes long, that fight, and he was looking like the much faster guy. And I think of Ryan Spann as someone that's a bit chinny, but, even though he doesn't have the best chin, his chin is a lot better than I actually remembered. Because, I don't know, for whatever reason, I kind of put him in the same box as Johnny Walker. Maybe that's just because he is kind of a stupid fighter. And you kind of relate dumb fighters with terrible chins because you picture Johnny Walker going back like the inflatable balloon man. and that's just the epitome of a low IQ look. But I'm picking Ryan Spann. He's the safer pick. I think he's going to have the grappling advantage. I don't know what Bogdan's grappling is really like, but Ryan Spann is a really big light heavyweight. I think that if he wants, he can take this fight to the mat. He's got a submission game. I think he's got like, at least 6 or 7 submissions throughout his career. And he can always make that happen in this fight if things get a little bit hairy on the feet, right? He took Anthony Smith down. He beat him up in the second round of their fight, or at least kind of crumpled Anthony Smith to the mat after he broke his orbital bone. And I just like the fact that he had a competitive fight with Anthony Smith, even when he wasn't even going to low kicks, okay? Because Smith is better than Bogdan. So, big step up for Bogdan Guskov, even though it's not like Ryan Spann has really beaten anyone worth a damn. I mean, who's he really beat? Like Ion Cutelaba? And who else? Johnny Walker? He didn't even beat... Wait, what am I saying? He didn't even beat Johnny Walker. Who did he beat? Ryan Spann beat Dominic Reyes, Misha Serkinov, Sam Alvey, and Devin Clark? Oh, wait a second. He beat Antonio Nogueira. Okay, never mind. We can catapult him to the top of the GOAT list now, like Fedor. But I'm just joking around. He's not really beat anyone worth a damn, so it's a close fight. But Ryan Spann has a lot more experience with much higher levels of competition, and he's been able to have moments against these guys and somewhat competitive fights against these guys, whereas the last time Bogdan got in the cage with someone decent in Volkan Ozdemir, he got smoked. So I'm going with Ryan Spann, and I'm actually going to pick Ryan Spann to win this by submission. That's going to be my official pick for this fight. Ryan Spann by submission. I'm going to say first or second round. I think that they're going to get into some wild exchanges on the feet. And I think that Ryan Spann may even get rocked early, but I think he's going to find the takedown. And I think he's going to submit Bogdan, who, again, is kind of lacking that extra experience. But, yeah, let's get on to the next one. I want Bogdan to win. On to the next one. Matheus Nicolau versus Alex Perez. I am going with Matheus Nicolau, and I'm going to pick him to win a boring, lackluster 5-round decision on the back foot. He's a back foot fighter, which I think is going to suit him well against a guy in Alex Perez that will shoot takedowns and has a decent wrestling background. Because if his idea is I'm going to go and take this guy to the ground, he's going to press forward, and that's what Matheus Nicolau does best. He likes when people press forward. He likes to fight on the back foot and frustrate them with his lateral movement. I think he's the higher level striker. I think that Alex Perez is overrated. Yes, people are going to be thinking highly of him because he was the one that was making his fight with Muhammad Mokaev somewhat entertaining. It was Muhammad Mokaev that was looking a little bit more stinky. It was Alex Perez that was the only one landing punches every now and then. But come on. Just because he was able to land a couple of punches on one of the most pathetic fighters in that division that is literally a crotch sniffer, okay, that's open all day on the feet, does not mean he's going to outstrike Matheus Nicolau, who has had competitive fights with the likes of Manel Kape, has knocked out guys like, I'm going to say Matt Schnell as if that's impressive. There's nothing impressive about knocking out Matt Schnell, but I love how people are hyping up Steven Ursic's last win over him as if like that's a big thing, as if he's going to go in there and knock out Alexander Pantoja because he knocked out the chinniest guy in his division, yet he's going to knock out the most granted chin fighter. I don't buy it. But either way, David Dvorak, that's all right. Tim Elliott, that's a pretty decent win. And of course, Manel Kape is in the mix. I thought Manel Kape won that fight. I thought it was a robbery, but it was close. It was a close fight. But then again, all robberies are close fights. Let's not forget that. It was a robbery, but still competitive. Alex Perez, he's just not that impressive, man. He's not that impressive. And he's got decent grappling, but he's been submitted multiple times. He's been submitted by Pantoja. He's been submitted by Davidson Figueiredo. He had a lackluster fight in his last outing. I think Matheus Nicolau is going to tune him up on the back foot with long, rangy body kicks and decent boxing. And I think that he'll be able to fend off the submissions and the grappling in this fight. So I'm going with Matheus Nicolau. Boring 5-round decision. We're going to be talking to the chat. We're going to be bored as hell while watching it. And I can't wait to see these two carbon copy flyweights go at each other. And I can't wait for the hardcore fans to be bitching and complaining about a potential robbery. As if that actually means anything. Oh my God, one of them got robbed. I don't give a fuck. Okay? I hope there's a robbery. That'll at least make it entertaining. Actually, I'm kind of bullshitting. I will care because we'll be able to talk about it afterwards. But I just hope that there's something eventful. I hope that there's an early finish, even if that means I get my pick wrong. Because, man, I just have a feeling this fight is going to be atrocious, all right? It's going to put us to sleep. But we're going to watch it. We're going to tune in. Again, I said the UFC is figuring out just how many suckers are going to tune into this one. Because that's how we know who our real fans are. We got to see how many more real fans we have after UFC 300. All right? We're going to see if that number is increased a little bit. So I think it will. I'm definitely tuning in. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Until next time.